Hey there, I'm Douglas Ferguson here with John Fitch to walk you through the Team CliftonStrengths library. And this is a mural template in our series of mural templates we've been releasing this summer. And this template allows you to take output from the Clifton Strength Finder tool and accumulate this into a template that will allow you to walk through and understand the formulation of your team and how you might best work with each other and get to a deeper understanding of your team and how connected you are. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to John Fitch to walk us through the template.
Awesome. Thank you, Douglas. And if you haven't heard of Clifton Strengths, previously it was called Strengths Finder. It's a personality assessment similar to Enneagram and Myers-Briggs. So this is a helpful way for you to process and workshop once you have your assessments in. And we've got essentially 4 sections in this template. And the first 3 is just for socialization about the results. And then the last step, the 4th one, is about how do you apply this new knowledge and worldview of your team with the things actually going on at your organization. But in the first one, what you do is once each person does the strengths assessment, they'll get a many page PDF export that talks about all of their strengths. And on that, there is a specific page. It's page 21 of the report, and it is a high-level view of all of the strengths, as well as which theme you naturally lead in. And what we've done here is for some members of our team, we've laid out the team according to the domain that they're in. And so you'll see me here in the influence section. I have a lot of influencing traits as well as some strategy, but I'm higher on the influence. And we've got Douglas and Tara on the execution domain. We've got a few other teammates in the relationships and strategy. This is really awesome. We're pretty well spread out. Whereas if you did this with your team, perhaps you'll notice, oh, wow, we don't have any people in the relationships domain. That doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just opens up the conversation that maybe we should be leaning on someone who does have some relationship strengths to think about how we manage relationships, both internally and externally. So once you have these up, the second step is to allow each person to reflect on their blind spots. In that report that each person will get, your strengths come with prompts around your blind spots. And what you would do when using this is, I like to host anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes of solo work, where each person is creating stickies underneath their profile picture about what are blind spots I need to be mindful of regarding my strengths, because some strengths can be your weaknesses as other people interact with them. And so it's just a wonderful way for each person to think about, hey, these are my strengths. They're awesome, but I have to be mindful of X, Y, and Z because it's all about balance and applying your strengths in a mindful way, not cranking the volume up on them all the way, because sometimes that can be detrimental to your teamwork. So that's step 2. Each person would create as many stickies as they see fit. And then the third section is just for socialization. And you grab each person's picture and you drop them here in the 2x2 where we're just discussing. Like, for example, I'd say, hey, Douglas, that's really cool that you and Tara are in the execution domain. You lean more towards that. The way that Tara and you have collaborated to execute a lot of our workshops. We do a weekly facilitation practice and we've never failed at that. That totally makes sense. And so we would just discuss as a team and appreciate our spread across the different strengths. Or we may discuss, hey, it looks like we could use some more strategy. And Frankie here is our sort of natural strategy domain. And so perhaps we would get ideas from her on strategy, or we may look at other people's strength profile that do have some strategy and consider how we leverage that relationship internally. And then on to the fourth, which is the highest output and practical step of this template. And what you do is you consider your top objectives at the moment. I put two examples there currently for us at Voltage Control, and Douglas and I are going to chat about this now. So what you see here is we've created every strength, and it's next to that particular domain. So there's a bunch of strengths here that are part of the executing domain, a lot of strengths for relationship building, influencing, strategic thinking. And so what we're going to do now is, Douglas, if we were going to launch a new software platform, and considering these strength stickies here, what are a handful of them that would be really important to tap into?
Let's see here.
One that comes to mind for me is actually empathy. So empathy is one that I think we would want to make sure, because it's a new software platform, we're going to have a lot of assumptions. And so being able to go out to the marketplace or talk to our current customers and really understand what they need comes to mind. And you think something that would be a great accompaniment to empathy for new software platform?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think focus would be a big one as well.
Nice. Cool.
So maybe we could pull that one down.
Yeah, that's good to balance out that relationship building with some execution. I also think one thing that comes to mind is in strategic thinking, there's ideation, and ideation is great in the art of the new. When participants in a meeting have ideation, they tend to be really fun to facilitate. There's no lack of ideas. And so I think those three would be fantastic. Let's consider this last objective below: expand our facilitator network. So we're looking to expand our facilitating capabilities by expanding our network. What are some strengths that would benefit
I'd say
us?
includer really jumps out to me.
Nice. Includer is in the relationship building. So that makes sense. I think
maybe activator too in the influencing. Activator and communication both jumped out to me.
Cool. And then I'm going to add on to that by saying consistency from the execution trait. Because if we're going to expand our facilitator network, we have a high standard for the way we facilitate. And so if we were expanding that out, we would need to be really consistent in our network.
I'd say maybe a small dose of futuristic from our strategy friends, because if we keep it futuristic, it'll keep people coming back.
Awesome. I'm sure we could come up with these recipes, but what you can see here is you look at your objectives as a team or company through the lens of the strengths. Then what we're able to do is, again, on this canvas, we're able to say, all right, cool. If we're going to launch a new software platform, empathy, focus, and ideation is really important. So let's consider on the team in this library who has that in their top strengths, and how you determine that is in that image of that PDF export. You'll see there's things that are kind of a muted color, low opacity, and then there's the squares with a highly saturated color. So we would look for who on the team has that in their top strengths. For example, ideation is something that I have in my strategic as my 6th strength. So that's high up in my top 10. And so perhaps when we're considering new software, I would be invited to any workshops, or if we're thinking about new ideas, perhaps you come to me, whereas focus is an executing domain. Douglas has that in his domain. He doesn't exactly have focus, but he's got a lot of executing themes, and perhaps we can leverage that to help us focus. So what's valuable about this is you can detach for a moment from your traditional organizational hierarchy or structure and think about inclusivity through the lens of strengths. Um, just because you don't have a strength at the top doesn't mean you're not good at that strength. The way I like to think about the Clifton Strengths frameworks is whatever strengths are in your top 10, that's the type of work that energizes you. Versus if it's in my bottom 10, that type of work is, or that type of strength is likely going to drain me. So this allows you to say, hey, who naturally has a strength applied to this objective? And let's think about ways to incorporate them into the project. And that's the Clifton Strengths library. We created it because usually when you do the Clifton Strengths, it just applies to you, which is totally helpful for self-awareness and self-improvement. But it's really powerful when you look at it across a team. And these 4 exercises help you maximize that. So definitely recommend checking out Clifton Strengths if you haven't yet. And if you know what it's all about, have fun with this template.